On this episode of AV Week, Hitachi is getting into the crowded interactive display market. Samsung is building a Bixby-powered AI speaker. And where do you get your subcontract labor from? All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 306, recorded Friday, July 7th, 2017. Subcontract Specialist.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Kramer, AV Beyond the Box, and by Atlas IED, innovative audio solutions for every business environment.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to talk about that very thing, first and foremost, his name is Brock McGinnis. He works at a company called Westbury National in beautiful Canada. How are you, sir?
I'm tremendous.
Happy 150th Canada Day to you, too.
Always good to be here, Tim. And this is a great week. Canadians had some time off. Americans had some time off.
Yeah.
I think we're all refreshed. We've recovered from Infocom and are just working our way through the AV business.
Have we really recovered from Infocom? I mean,
Chris is looking really fresh.
Well, Chris is very, very fresh.
Absolutely.
Chris Bach from Extron. How are you, sir?
Nominal. Thank you very much.
Nominal.
Greetings and salutations.
Good Lord, it's going to be one entire show of audio and video jokes. Okay. Sorry, that's nominal.
Constant bit rate.
Joke. There we go. Even a streaming joke. All right, let's kick this off here. First and foremost, from our friends over at AV Network, Hitachi is shipping an interactive flat panel display. Really quickly, it's 3 FHD and UHD interactive flat panels available, 65-inch and 75 and 86-inch quote-unquote HD interactive flat panel displays are a simple tool for education facilities that allow students to experience hands-on learning. The 10 or more simultaneous points of touch make group work easy by allowing students to work together. Not incorrect.
Right.
Now, the reason I bring this up is if you do a quick Google search for interactive displays, quote unquote, on the first page of the Google results, you will get 11 different companies. 11. That's on the first page. I didn't go to the second page because nobody ever goes to the second page of Google results. Brock, I'm going to start with you on this. In my opinion, this is a saturated market. So Hitachi, shipping these now, it seems a little unusual for me. What can they do to differentiate themselves in this crowded room?
I don't think it's about them differentiating themselves. I think it's about Hitachi having an established channel with the K-12, or some would say K-6 markets, but the K-12 market. People are already buying their product. It is a known and trusted name. They're already well ingrained with the purchasing departments, and I think it just makes sense for Hitachi to extend their existing projector business and relationships with an interactive whiteboard. So
leveraging existing relationships and existing buying.
Correct, and what is kind of unspoken in the industry, but should be out there for discussion, is that so many schools already have smartboards, and some of them bought smart flat panel displays, but most of them have smartboards, and now want to continue using that type of technology, but at a brightness and clarity and contrast and readability level that actually works better in the classroom for them.
Okay. Chris, when it comes to getting into a market like this, how do manufacturers assess that? Like, I'm not asking you to talk for Extron, but there have been a couple of times in the last few years that you guys have introduced products and services with several other competitors that are already in that space, right? Already in that pool. How do you guys assess that and go, you know what, we can do this as good or better than the folks that are already in it? This is why we're going to market with and jumping into that fray.
Advisory councils are where that feedback comes from. We have guys like Brock come out every so often to Anaheim and sit down with all of engineering, all of product development, and conversations go a couple of different ways. One is, we don't make this. Should we make this? Or two, we make this. Do you like how we're making it? Do we make it different? And ultimately, things get prioritized. We hear something 2 times, that's nice. It gets on the bottom of the pile. We hear something 17 times, goes to the top of the pile. So there was, I'm sure, some conversation that they needed to be in that market. And it's a big market. When I was reading this article, Microsoft got surprised, I think, by the success of the Surface Hub, which I see when I gallivant around California and the Bay Area quite a bit. It turned out to be apparently $1 billion market for them. They actually raised the prices on the units by $2,000 at one point. So I guess it's a big enough mountain for everyone to, this is my land, put your flag in the sand on. But getting back to where we come in as a manufacturer, that's how a lot of things that we've introduced in the last number of years have come to pass. Well, if you make this, you need to make it this way. You need to include this because the other boxes don't have that. Or this thing that's there doesn't work very well. It's unreliable. You need to make that bulletproof and things like that.
And sometimes, Chris, it's as simple as, I want to write as few purchase orders as possible,
Sure.
or I want to deal with as few vendors as possible.
Sure.
You look at some, a technical person who is responsible for 600 schools in a school district. They're overrun by requests and requirements and things. They want to simplify their lives.
And hoops to jump through to get set up with a new account and dealership.
Exactly. It's just, we're dealing with Hitachi. They've been good to us. They take good care of us. Their product works. Why wouldn't we buy this Hitachi board? And whether it's actually Hitachi product or it's being OEM'd, from someone else and the Hitachi name is put on the bottom is really immaterial. We as technical people get caught up with unique, differentiators with product and unique intellectual property requirements. That's not the market at all. The market is fine with me too. But they want a trusted vendor. Sure. and a trusted channel. And look at the cars on the road. Half the cars on the road look exactly like the other half of the cars on the road.
How about
that? And that's okay. There's nothing unique about most of those cars. But we all pick that brand that is that trusted vendor that has been good to us for the last 5 or 10 or 20 years. And we keep buying that one, even though all it really is a car that looks like the one next to us in the parking lot.
People want to pick up the phone and get a human being when it comes down to it.
Well, there is that too.
Yep.
Brock, you said something that I would type on really quickly. You said the market is okay with me too.
Yep.
How do we get that message out then to the integrators or to folks like me that cover the industry that are looking in that going, okay, it's a me too, so we pass it by. But you're saying that the market is okay with me too, so integrators should be okay with it. Folks like me should be okay with it in covering it. So we shouldn't necessarily just pass it by because it's a me too, because the market, the actual folks that are using this are fine with that.
The market is fine with the channel. There's a limited amount of functionality in an electronic whiteboard. There are not a lot of unique differentiators in that space. We use a product called Display 10 as an alternative to a Surface Hub. It's got a Windows 10 computer in it. It's got wireless built into it. It's a magic thing that is less than half the price of a Surface Hub. Wow. We also sell Surface Hubs. The Google Jamboard is a unique piece of intellectual property, but the only people that are going to buy a Jamboard are people that are already part of a Google ecosystem. Yep. G Suite ecosystem, and then that makes sense for them because here is the physical interface, the tactile interface that all of a sudden brings all of those G Suite capabilities to life as a collaboration tool. Well, most electronic whiteboards, and if you go back to the inventors in the space, the initiators, and I think that Mimeo would probably say that they were equally an initiator or Egan as smart. But those boards didn't do a lot. They were a replacement for a chalkboard.
Yep.
And then you could overlay content. What our teachers in my era used to take an overhead projector and put it on the chalkboard,
Yep.
and then draw or make circles around it. Teachers in Chris's era probably took that in elementary school, took that overhead projector,
Yep.
and they used an erasable marker on the acetate on the projector. All we're doing is taking that and putting it up on the wall. It's the same process. It's not there's not a whole lot of magic here until you get into multi-user, multi-touch, interactive with documents, and that's where that Cisco Spark, Surface Hub, Jamboard product begins to make extraordinary sense.
Some of these products make some pretty magical claims about gained productivity, because you're not showing up with your laptop and spending, in this article, 18 minutes getting the presentation started, because the display is magically ready for you. You appear and log in and start, and you're more engaged because you're standing up. So you can't have people with their laptops.
Well, it may take 11 minutes for an Hitachi laptop to actually boot up.
Okay.
I don't know.
Wow. All right. On that note,
18 minutes.
Let's talk about Samsung. From Engadget, quote unquote, Samsung is building a Bixby-powered AI speaker.
Because why not?
Because why not? Exactly. If you're not familiar, real quickly, Bixby is the virtual assistant inside your Samsung Galaxy, your Samsung phones. Now Samsung is developing their own Echo. We have Echo, we have Google Home, we have Apple HomePod shipping this December, I believe. A couple of things here. I find it interesting. Samsung purchased Harman, and that purchase was finalized a couple of months ago. Harman at ISE this year, and they were showing again at Infocom, they are already developing their own speaker with IBM's Watson in the back end. So, Chris, I'm going to start with you.
So I'll win at Jeopardy once I can buy that.
Well, yes, absolutely. Yes, you can have that Jeopardy winner inside your JBL speaker. Not quite yet. It's still a prototype.
Oh,
why would
that'll always be a prototype?
Why would Samsung do this? I mean, why would Samsung go down this road when they've already got a division that's kind of, I guess, competing with this eventually?
That train was probably already out of the station when that deal went through. That takes forever.
Okay.
Put together. These things are, like I said, forever beta. It makes me upset when I go home and I have a Google Home speaker at home, and there are some applications that work well on it and others that don't. If I want to listen to YouTube music, I have to have YouTube Red, which is an additional fee monthly to be able to play back, because otherwise you can't see the ad that's going to air before the thing that you actually want to see. I could do Pandora, basically beaming it to the Google Home, but sometimes the connection drops. Doesn't have Bluetooth. It's all over Wi-Fi. And then basically the AI isn't there for those kinds of things. You ask it a question like, what's the weather going to be today? And it'll give you that in a good answer. But then you want to continue the conversation and it doesn't follow. So these things are forever beta. I want to know how they're all ultimately going to eventually talk to each other as a good unit and as a human being would talk to another human being. But it makes sense that Samsung is getting in the fray, because why not? Apple's already got Siri. Samsung's got a platform, obviously, to compete phone-wise. So I'm sure they want to not fall behind on that, just the same as Apple's been with Siri for some time.
Brock, Chris actually brings up a really good point, and it was a question I was already going to ask. I try to eschew the term standards. I don't, but he makes a good point where, and I'm going to ask the question anyway, when do we get to the point with voice control and with AI, and especially with the interaction with all these AV products, where somebody somewhere starts pushing for a standard for voice control?
There are a lot of voices and there are a lot of languages. And this is a very, very complex subject. Voice control, voice control came out of the telephony industry, where our our banks and insurance companies and things started to deal with us instead of press number 7 and then press number 11. They started dealing with us with semi-AI driven voice control product. I find them all very frustrating.
Yeah, we're forever in their debt.
I know how to speak. I can enunciate well. Canadians, other than oots and a boots, have aluminium, have relatively flat accents. We do tend to use all of our consonants and most of our vowels, even if we do form them incorrectly at times. I don't get it. But then I don't get voice control. I was reading today about cognitive rooms and the evolution of what they're calling cognitive rooms, which is voice command rooms using Watson in the work environment. So the office that I was meeting at this morning probably had people born in 30 different countries. So how can a computer differentiate even standard commands like stop and start when they're being rendered in 30 different accents, and not, start has a hard consonant at the end, as does stop, very different sounds, but those, if there are lots of languages, if they were your first language, that prevent you from speaking either of those two very basic words in the English language. So I don't know, Tim. I'm not a fan. I'm not an Alexa fan. I think that Siri has a great place in the car because I don't have to take my hands off the wheel to do something.
Yep.
But the rest of the time, I'd rather do something with my fingers than with my voice.
All right, very good. One of the times
that's just me.
No, I know. That's the thing is I'm a big fan, and I'm very excited as a former programmer, the capabilities and the possibilities of voice control.
Provided they open up the API to people like you.
Well, they have a little bit. I mean, that's
right.
The thing is they're allowing, at least the Amazon Echo, not talking about anybody else.
Yep.
Echo is, and Google Home has started to as well, with some control platforms. And so the mechanism is there. The highway is already there. Whether Samsung is going to do it, whether Apple is going to do it is yet to be determined. And whether
we were kind of hoping they would at WWDC this year.
Yeah, it's possible. I think what you're going to see is let them get it out in the market, kind of like what Amazon did. They let the thing get out in the market to see how people did it, and then started working in the background with some of these other control companies.
And some of it is we don't know what it's good at and what it's going to be useful for us until we have a chance to use it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Chris. Do you pick your music playlists by talking to your Google?
Not at all. No. I either pick something beforehand or I just footloose and fancy free tell her play me some music, but yeah. I probably tell her play me some blues. So
right.
It's kind of a genre, but I'm not gonna be able to cater it very intimately with the AI that's there now.
I find that SiriusXM has a pretty good AI. If there's a genre of music I want, generally there's a station for it.
Yeah.
and so Chris has Google Home. I have Amazon Echo at the house, and you can put a couple different music platforms to
services.
That.
Sure.
Specifically talking about music here. One is the Amazon Prime Music, and both that I've experienced with that,
which gets better all the time.
It does. It's not as good as Spotify. So if you pay for the premium Spotify, you can just utilize theirs. Both of them, though, if I'm blues, jazz, if I want a specific artist, 90% of the time it's going to give you pretty much what you want. So,
are you the only profile on your device? Because when Google Home came out, I registered it to the wife. She's always home. It's in the kitchen. And I couldn't do anything under my profile, but eventually they added that with a firmware upgrade. So that's another thing that's limited these devices in the past.
Yeah, that's the trick with the Echo is that there are no profiles. It is what it is.
Right.
I am looking forward to the day when they will have voice recognition and I can stop my 11 and 9-year-old from fighting over talking to Alexa. Just put that out there. All right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a fun one. From AV Network, our friends over at SCN. filling your staffing needs with freelancers, quote unquote. Second only to securing lucrative projects is the quest for skilled, reliable AV labor, with many integrators turning to freelance staffing services for the help they need. Quick caveat here, or quick, just be open about everything. My last full-time AV job, that's what I did. I ran an independent programming house called Innovad. It was purchased by an integrator, so a long time. But this is where I lived, right? I lived in the freelance labor market. One of our host of one of our shows called State of Control, Steve Greenblatt, owns Controlled Concepts. It's a freelance independent programming house. Gotten to know the folks at Herman Pro AV, which does labor and they're getting into programming and stuff. So there are a couple of folks out there that I'm aware of. Brock, I will start with you on this one though. When do you use labor? When do you use sub labor, and when do you not use it?
When we started, we wanted to do everything ourselves. We wanted the quality control and the scheduling control, which gave us, a much more certainty and surety about the product that we were delivering to our clients. And especially as construction schedule slid, one day you needed 8 people, the next day you needed 4 people. If they're your own people, you can move them around more flexibly. And that was great. But as we continued to grow, we could not keep up with the demand for site labor. Now, we have enough programmers to keep up with our work. I think we've got 8 or 9 people in that department now. We have 9 project managers, our programmers and field engineers, but on the field technician side, the people that hang things up and pull cable and do interconnections, and some of it is skilled, some of it is semi-skilled, some of it is highly technical, but we could not grow our business fast enough to keep up with the growth in business and the demand for our services. And so what we have focused on is high-end knowledge workers, and more we are using not freelance labor pools, which would imply that people are being hired one at a time, but we are using subcontract specialists in order to affect big projects. And one of the reasons is that, at least in Canada, a lot of construction work is quite seasonal or cyclical. Our summers are far busier than any other time of year. We can do 60% of our annual business in June, July, and August.
Wow.
Simply because all of the universities and schools are closed during that period.
Yeah.
The corporate Canada winds down and goes to the lake for the summer. So if they're not using their meeting rooms, that's the time they'd like work done in their meeting rooms. And the same thing with government, the courts, there are a whole bunch of things. So where right now, without kind of giving you any numbers, we are running 4 times the amount of labor every week than we do the rest of the year.
Good night.
And this is June, July, August, and in fact, it's now because of construction slides through to the end of December, but we're talking about thousands and thousands of extra person hours that we've had to go out and acquire in the marketplace. And some of that is from the broadcast industry, and some of that is from the theater industry, because theaters go dark, and there are a lot of good technical people that are available in that, and others are organized subcontract only, companies that only sell technical services. Sometimes they will sell to us by the hour, and sometimes they are actually taking on a subcontract at a fixed fee for a whole project, which I understand Herman does. Herman will either sell us hours, because for some of the American work we've done, we've approached Herman for some pricing and arrangements. And it's this is a necessity in business. You cannot grow or manage the flow of business without scalability.
Yep.
And
ebb and flow.
Capital you got to have working capital. If you're if you normally do $2 million a month, and all of a sudden for 5 months of the year you're going to do $4 or $5 million a month, well, you better have the working capital to be able to handle that uptick in business. You have to have a project management process, or do you say process, Chris? Process.
Depends on how many drinks I've had.
Yeah, in place to be able to handle the extra work. You've got to have the engineering team. Programming and field engineering is something that is widely available, because we find these days most integrators have no capability in that market at all. And Chris, is that your experience?
Yeah, I'm hearing that a lot from two major areas, San Diego area and the Bay Area. It's constant. Do you guys know anybody? We could certainly use a couple more engineers. We could certainly use another sales guy. We could certainly use a programmer, and it never stops. It's when I started back in the day, 17 years ago, there were ebbs and flows in all of America to basically workflow. You'd have time in the winter to go and clean up the AE lab where we try and recreate customer problems and catch up on paperwork and learn some stuff. And then the summer would obviously be busy and so forth. But now it just seems like in some people here, it's busy all the time. And even more so in San Diego and in the Bay Area. So Extron has helped in the last number of years with a program we call EQUIP, the Extron Qualified Independent Programmer. So you've got 9 programmers on staff. That's a lot. A lot of dealers don't have any full-time programmers on staff. They don't make that investment. So these are guys that have been here for days and gotten certified, gotten trained under the hood, nuts and bolts kind of stuff. And we see them employed regularly for projects. And ultimately, their quality is assured because they've been through all of that. They've got that suffix on the end of their name. So they do the heavy lifting of getting the control system done, but then they wind up in many cases being many different things because something winds up not being set right, but they know the big picture so they can get it set right so that it can be controlled and work the right way. So we see good positive results of that on the regular. There's a university up in Santa Clara I visit that has leaned very heavily on that because just like you talked about, they have to get everything done June, July, and August. They did 115 classrooms last summer. They're doing 65 this summer. So they're leaning on 3 different dealers, and last year on top of that, an independent programmer to get things written. And it got done, but it was all 8 cylinders all the time for that. Yep. So even big dealers didn't have everything that they needed because they're busy doing other stuff for other people at the same time.
Well, and that you make a good point as we kind of wrap up here is getting that's where certifications I think matter more than anything. Yes, it's going to be in some of the bid documents, but it's when folks like Brock look for subcontractors and they're talking with folks. Besides taking the word of the subcontract company, he can look and say, okay, they have this certification and this certification and this certification. Okay, a third party is verifying that they at least they knew what they were talking about.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen, that is going to do us. Mr. McGinnis, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time as always.
Always good to be here, Tim. The AVNation does wonderful things for the industry. It's a great source of information, certainly for me. And you've collected, such a diverse group of people and opinions that there's always something new and fresh and stimulating. So thank you for all that you do.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
You should be proud. Aren't you coming up on almost 300 shows, Tim?
I passed that.
You're already there.
Yeah, we did. Actually, Brock was on our 300th. So, yeah.
Good for you. That's an accomplishment.
Yeah, I don't know if it is or not. It just means I'm stubborn. That's all it means. Mr. McInnes, how do people connect with you or Westbury or both?
We're at westbury.com in Toronto. I'm pretty active on Twitter at Brock McGinnis. You will find me ranting and raving about a whole bunch of different things and sometimes poking a little fun or calling attention to good things that need to be recognized. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's me out there.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Mr. Bach, how do we thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me again, Tim.
How do people find you or Extron?
They find me on Extron's website. We've got out-of-the-box videos and other training videos that I'm working on up there. But Extron.com, we're on LinkedIn and Twitter and all that stuff too. So.
All right, very good. I will point out that his name is Chris Bach, and they're called Out of the Box videos.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. So
that wasn't what we thought of initially.
That is exactly what you thought of. Don't give me that.
I did for my Twitter handle Out of the Box. That did dawn on me eventually.
You don't think he was actually born Chris Bach, do you?
Oh, so you're saying it's like Johnny Carson.
I think he changed his name. I do.
It's possible. It's possible.
Brock and I go far enough back that you know that.
All right. Don't follow me, but go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv. When you're there, check out our underwriters section. Extron is one of our underwriters. We appreciate them. Thank you so much. These are companies who help us do what we do, support us so we can continue to bring you these programs and bring you stuff from various trade shows. Nothing for right now, but we got CDA coming up, and after that, New York Digital Signage Week, so check that out also. We have a new program that I'd like you to check out if you have a second. It's called the Daily Download. 5 minutes of the best AVNation programs delivered to your podcasting app every single morning. So we take episodes like this and Live Life and State of Control and AV Social and all the other ones, condense them down to about 5 minutes, take one topic or segment and give it to you, and it kind of gives you an idea of the various programs that we have. You can also get us on iTunes or any other podcasting app you have out there, or by the website, avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This has been AV Week.